Hello, everyone. This is Mark Delacruz, product lead for Lorelink, yet again for another exciting entry in our Indie Creator series. This week we have Sasha bringing us Spindlewheel, an interesting, basically tarot mini game collection. That's probably one way of describing it. I'll let them describe it basically the best in their own voice. So let me bring them in and bring us in. And nope, I wasn't wrong. It just lost that. Basically, it just lost that thing. You are audible and you can hear. You can be heard, Sasha. So go ahead and explain it while I briefly poke at why your PNG tuber has decided to go on vacation without telling us.
Oh no. Okay. Well, hi. I'm Sasha Renault. My pronouns are they and them, and I'm here to showcase Spindlewheel, which is a tarot-like storytelling game that you play using a completely bespoke Oracle deck. Um, it is all about interpretation and um, pulling out a story from what the cards invoke to you, and allowing for its uh, random juxtaposition to present uh, beats that you would not come up with on your own. And that's the sort of beating heart of the game.
Awesome. And basically, so basically it's a collection of stuff. And today we're going to take a quick look at. We're going to start off by playing um, Detective, which is one of the games which is available basically in the game. And basically, I've got 20 here as well, who will be joining us for this excitement. You can,
Hello, everyone.
yay! There's the 20, and of course we have Tony moderating on deck, hanging out in chat. Say hi to him. He gets lonely in chat. Um, and so basically, so how did basically so what's the starting incident for Detective? What's the basically what are we cracking today, as it were?
For sure. Um, so in Detective, you are a detective summoned to a crime scene to investigate a freshly discovered dead body. Um, we have here 13 unlucky cards that describe the crime, or at least the death, however it may be. And what we'll do is we'll flip each of these cards one at a time and discover card by card what happened. Um, so Starting out with the scene, which is the state of the body or where it was found, we'll also take a look at what a spindle wheel card looks like. Um, in this case, it is Priestess, crackling with power, mired in blood, melancholic and distant. And the inverse of it is actually a calming presence, a reality grounded, a divine purpose. Um, so we'll use uh, as much of the card as we want um, to extrapolate what the scene might be. So it could be an element of the art or one of these verses of poetry on it. It could be as much as the entire card or as little as a single word. Um, we'll take turns interpreting what each of these cards mean, and I'm happy to go first. Priestess, I think, is um, I'm gonna pull on the sort of religious connotations of the card and also a calming presence. I think that this is um, a a water feature in the front of a cathedral. So like this sort of reflecting pond, this reflecting pool in front of a cathedral. That is where we place the scene of the crime. Um,
Okay.
and so next we will find out the victim, the body's identification, um, which 20 if you want to flip that.
Okay. The number 2. Got it.
Apprentice,
All
bright-eyed, strong. Good.
So we have apprentice is bright-eyed, strong-willed, above and beyond expectations, or resentful, bullheaded, and withheld wisdom and given baggage. I know people that describes. So you said the scene is a reflecting pool in front of a cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
And the victim... So this card applies to the victim, but may or may not necessarily be the victim?
This is the body's identification.
Got it. So this is the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. I'm feeling like I vibe more with the bright-eyed, strong-willed, above and beyond expectation. This person had a lot of potential and engendered goodwill in the people they knew.
Maybe someone are they young, or are they just do they just have a lot of potential?
I think they were a young person. And maybe not a child, but maybe late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
Kind of age.
Member of the community.
Yeah, member of the community.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to flip cause of death, the killing blow?
I will flip the cause of death. Okay. It is willow. Drooping branches, numbing bark, solace for the bereft and grieving. Or, alternatively, stubborn roots, anchored into a cliff, reaching wide and winding deep. Oh. I mean, the first interpretation that comes to mind, like with numbing bark, is going to be poison. It's going to basically end. That's going to be the idea that basically whether it was the basically poison that killed them and then they fell into the pool, or poison that put them into a state that allowed them to drown in the pool. Either one of those could work. I'm kind of lean towards the latter just because it's a little bit more interesting. Basically,
Sure.
was it intentional or was it accidental? It leaves it kind of a little bit more open for now, in terms of how it happened. But basically, I like the idea that it was something. Basically, they were found with some kind of substance in their body, which basically put them in a state that left them easily susceptible to drowning.
All right. So, the next part, in any order, as marked by stars, investigate Dream, Plan, Boon, and Bane. So, the dream is what the victim was trying to do, and it's as written is a dream torn from the victim by the killer, and plan is how the victim tried to attain their dream. Boon is what was working in the victim's favor, so who mourns them, who helped them, what they left behind. And we'll flip all 3 of these cards as they're connected to each other by these little red strings. And Bane, why someone might hurt the victim, witnesses, fatal weaknesses, suspects, evidence. And we'll also flip all 3 at once. So let's see, where should we start? Let's look at Boon. Let's look at what was working in their favor.
Okay.
So I will flip these cards, and we can go through them one at a time. So Exhibit C is godless, a curious outsider, a prodigy, or a paradigm shift, a loss of faith, a scientific impossibility. I think that they were not just full of potential, but maybe a once in a generation talent.
Hmm.
Although what they were talented at, I'm not totally sure. Maybe these other cards can tell us. 20, do you want to look at adversary here?
Yeah. Adversary, proud, venomous, obsession unswayed by reason or patience. Or a childhood rival, a worthy opponent, or a moving finish line. Let's see. Oh, I'm having trouble with the game. Don't mind me. Okay. We said the victim was bright-eyed, and you said a once-in-a-generation talent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we want to read Exhibit D before we make any more generalizations, or should I draw some conclusions?
We can read the Exhibit D, absolutely.
Okay.
Mark, do you want to read that?
I can read that one. That is chasm, or chasm, depending on how basically pronunciation you want to use. I've heard both. A dry well, a winding corridor, a gasp for breath. Or alternatively, a long drop, a yawning canyon, or a sinkhole. Okay. So this is basically people who have reasons why they basically was working in the victim's favor, basically why they would be mourned.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a once in a lifetime generational talent. I'm going to say that basically they were basically this is the in terms of basically there's a gap, there is a large distance between them and their peers. They are basically they stand out to the point where basically they are 100%, they are noted by their faculty, their mentors, their teachers, their superiors, that they were basically that people definitely looked at them basically and basically went, oh, they were recognized. It wasn't a once in a generational talent that was, a diamond in the rough. This was someone everybody knew, and there was basically such a gap between them and their peers that they were given special attention. They were being groomed for a future position. Everyone was expecting them to be the next. And basically, this is the interesting part. Basically, do we take the secular or do we take this religious? We've put it in front of a cathedral. So basically, are they a religious figure? Basically, were they part of the church? Or were they just part of the community, basically, possibly that attended the church? Or maybe they're unconnected to the church altogether. I think that's the... Well, basically, I don't have, basically... Does anyone has a, oh, I really want this, go for it? Otherwise, I'm willing to keep poking and seeing what we come up with.
Yeah, I'm happy to defer that. Actually, I would love to flip Dream and find out.
Okay.
What they were interested in. Princess. Sheltered and fearful, seen and never heard, expected to suffer lightly. Or master of statecraft, coy and clever, wealth beyond gold and land.
Ooh. This feels like this is now it's a hereditary.
Hang on.
Mhm.
What is the dream again?
The dream is the a dream torn from the victim by the killer.
Okay.
You have an idea, 20?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking maybe the dream of the victim is to employ all of these prodigious skills that they have toward attaining wealth and or status, power, master of statescraft, or, you know, it might not even be statecraft, it might be even more related to like seeking power within a business structure.
Hmm.
You know, like trying to ascend to CEO level, get in the C-suite, if you will.
Mhm.
Or you know, maybe even starting their own business and attaining, you know, wealth beyond their dreams.
Oh, I like that in conjunction with adversary. A moving finish line, right?
Yeah.
Um, that lovely feature of capitalism where the number must always go up or else
Right.
failure.
There is never enough.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
basically their dream basically their dream is their own curse, as it were.
Hmm.
They got they got the first position that they wanted, but not necessarily. Basically, then they're like, but what if I was basically a bigger company? What if we were bigger? What if we had more? And so they were basically they were the prize. They were the darling of the press and everything like that. They were 30 under 30 and basically in
Hmm.
fortune. But they weren't satisfied with what they'd done so far, and there's always something bigger, something more they wanted.
Absolutely.
I am really, really refraining from making cultural references at this point to individuals that are in my brain. I just want you all to understand that I am holding back. We don't need to have a political discussion. It's a game. I'm fine.
Hmm.
But that's a great thing about these games is the fact that it's when played in less by gesture at the stream and everything public settings. Obviously, basically a lot of basically what you're thinking about the things which have been bothering you and bugging you about things can come out and have more of a framework, and you're like, oh, this is what really has bugged me about these things is
Hmm.
X. It's this potential that has been wasted. And so
Yeah, that is
good.
the beautiful thing about this medium is bleed will strike in good ways and bad.
Mm-hmm.
um, Especially with a reflective system like tarot. In any case, we have Bane and Plan left to explore. Where should we go next?
I mean, I think at this point we're all basically we have definitely set this person up basically for reasons why people could hate them. So I think we need to go to Bane to really nail down exactly basically why this person has been so hated.
Mhm.
So we'll flip all three here. And I will start with Bane. Snake oil, a simple solution to a complicated problem, easy in theory, difficult in practice, or a stopgap, a placebo, or a sweet tasting poison. We've set this up as like there's an obvious route that Bane is going to go off of this one, which is basically how far they were willing to go. Basically is it the fact that they were basically their great idea that started off great that everyone thought they've their reach has exceeded their grasp. They promised more than their company has delivered, but the need to continue has pushed them beyond where they should have stopped, and they've kept grasping, and now they've broken some promise with basically with their with their investment, their company, with their reach, in order to get to where they wanted to go.
Or were they hoisted by their own petard with a sweet-tasting poison?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is a good question. Whether they bought into their own hype.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that works too. Yeah.
Or literally were maybe killed by something they were producing. Since we're saying poison, right?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Exhibit A is Vagabond, a wanderer bearing only a suitcase, a story, and a smile, or a passing traveler, superstitious and weary, with miles still to go. Is this someone? Oh, I like this as someone who came into the community just recently, who maybe got close to our baby CEO, with that a suitcase, a story, and a smile, who maybe put some ideas in their head, that like changed the trajectory of this snake oil, of this incredible potential, that they have, towards something a little bit less stable.
Basically, the possibility for something great that may or may not be basically actually obtainable. Basically, that they're like, but you could be even better if only you just had. I've seen basically, I've had basically this great idea I've had that could make you a ton of money.
It's like the legend of Bagger Vance, but if Bagger Vance was a snake oil salesman instead of an angel.
Gosh, I haven't thought about Legend of Bagger Vance in a hot second.
Yeah, good movie though.
Spoilers. We're beyond the statute of limitations for Legends of Bagger Vance, I'm fairly certain. It's what, the 90s?
I
Is
will
that
have to
90s
look
or
that
early
up.
2000s?
Early 2000s, I think.
Okay.
Look.
Well, you're looking at
2000 exactly.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
The last one is You good? Good.
Adaptation of a novel.
Okay.
So, there you go.
Last one is Volcano. Thunder and fire, a column of ash, lava black and crackling red. Or Volcano, a dormant goddess, a cooling island, lush with sprouts, a season of peace. Any thoughts on that one, 20? Oops. Did we lose 20?
Hello?
There, you're back. Okay.
Yeah. Can you move the cursor off the card so I can read? Thank you.
Sorry. You can press Alt while hovering over the card to get an enlarged version, by the way.
Oh.
That's what I've been using for the stream, to highlight it on the stream rather than trying to zoom in.
Great. Let's see. Hold on, I'm reading the rules real quick. Why someone might hurt the victim. It seems to me that the victim became a target because the things that they were doing were not consistent with what they said they were going to do.
Mhm.
And whether that was intentional so to speak,
Cut out
or
briefly there. We
I
got
wonder what's happening
intentional.
with my mic.
We got intentional, and then so to speak.
But what I said was, I don't know whether they knew if they were selling snake oil, like if it was intentional, or if the influence of the vagabond turned what they thought they were selling into something that wasn't what they intended, and therefore somebody victimized them because of what they had experienced due to the product or service that the victim was putting out.
Can
Yeah,
I make a pitch
go for
for
it.
what that was?
Mm.
Just going from the somewhat apocalyptic imagery on Volcano. Maybe it was like some kind of like either some sort of like foundational cement that curdled, that like became super hot, lava black and crackling red,
Mm.
or something. If we wanted to go, if we wanted to stick with snake oil with it, something medicinal, something that left a rash that was like a burn in that way.
Ooh,
Mhm.
clever.
Playing more off of Volcano. Basically, it's a breakthrough. It's a wonder. It's an explosive moment that if it did what it said it did, um, basically with the usual target for medicinal cancer treatments, basically a cancer breakthrough. Basically something like that would cure cancer, and so people would be willing. Basically, it's a huge breakthrough. It's an explosive moment. So basically, lots of excitement, lots of things, a breakthrough that then basically follows through, and basically, so you have people signing up because they're like, oh, it's worth the risk, but they didn't know exactly just how much of a risk it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So a loved one dies because of the promised treatment doesn't work, and that leaves us basically, it leaves us with basically an angry mourning relative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or
it fails and catastrophically, right? Which leaves us with plan, which is how the victim was trying to get their dream, which is fortune. That's very funny.
Right?
Abundant harvest, a missed opportunity, a hesitation, or rotten luck, a persistent rumor, a nagging instinct. Oh, that could go a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
There's an element here of corruption, of like selling the snake oil knowing that it will backfire, and capitalizing on the tragedy that follows. Or it could be like this this prodigy like being propped up by everyone around them kind of becoming too confident in their own instincts, a nagging instinct, right? And saying, oh no, I'll know it when I see it. I don't need anyone else's input on it, you know?
Yeah.
I've got an interesting pitch. Oh, sorry, if you're
Oh,
going to
yeah?
finish.
Oh, please.
Okay. Basically, the cure would have worked. They were a prodigy. They were once in a generation. They have actually figured things out that they could. Basically, the cure should have worked. But the problem with things like that is in today's society, a cure doesn't necessarily make you money unless you can produce it cheaply, you can make money selling it, and that's where the vagabond comes in with basically, let me help you sell this. And they push a method of producing it in order to basically to sell it, basically to make it cheaper, basically cutting corners, cutting testing, things like that basically they had the right, basically they had the right idea. This bright-eyed person has the right idea, but then they fall victim to basically someone trying to basically help them make money off of it. And so then it all goes sideways at that point. And that's the tragedy of this, is that they had the right idea. They could have done it, but because they chose to try to make as much money as they could off of it, they end up losing everything.
Yeah.
Maybe that nagging instinct finally kicked in. Maybe we need to look at the vagabond as a potential perpetrator. Maybe they were like, wait a minute. Bagger Vance over here does not actually have my best interests at heart, let alone the interests of the people who are supposed to be getting cured by my dream.
It's set up by the vagabond using the person who got basically the grieving relative as a scapegoat, either setting them up to do the deed or doing it and framing it on that person.
It's very possible. Let's look at the likely culprit, which is our 12th card.
Okay.
The grave. A devastating loss, a bone healed wrong. Or closure gained, last word spoken, the end of an era.
Yeah, that definitely
a
kind
devastating loss.
Yeah. That does point to the relative, right?
Yep.
Wow.
All right. Let's look at our final clue, our 13th card, which is the last piece of the puzzle. Does it fall into place or throw a wrench in the gears?
All right, I will flip the final clue. Overgrowth, interloping opportunity, or a greedy and jealous invader. A resurgence of life, natural reclaiming, or abandoned places. Okay.
Nature reclaiming abandoned places.
I mean, interloping opportunist, right?
Yep. So
the vagabond seems like that to me.
So is this the final twist where we discover at the last moment that basically the likely culprit basically is the grieving relative, who basically all signs point to them having done it. It turns out that they were in fact just the scapegoat, the framed job by the vagabond, using the chance to steal the cure, make out in basically head off, basically get away scot-free with the creator dead, now they can do what they want. That way
That's
we
what it's
want to go.
looking like.
Yeah.
So that is the next step, which is to deliberate.
Yeah.
Consider the evidence carefully. Ask yourself, who are the major players? What was the victim afraid of? What feels out of place? Who stands to gain from their death? I think we've got a pretty good view of what happens to this prodigy. And the next step is to convict. Once you have deliberated, choose any card in the spread as the killer card and make an arrest. Isolate the accused card from the spread. The deck plays the judge. Draw a card for their sentence. Did the judge's ruling match the crime? Is it just, cruel and unusual, a slap on the wrist? Regardless, it's out of your hands now. Place the judgment card with the accused. So who done it? Who are we going to hold accountable for this?
Yeah, the vagabond.
I will point to the vagabond.
All right.
Or should we move them?
Let's see what the judge has to say about it. Apostle, the discontent, the faithful gadfly, persistent and critical, or true believer, zealous prophet, servant of the pious. What a bookend.
Discontent.
Yeah, basically we're back to a religious start to this that we avoided a little. Basically, we didn't avoid necessarily, but the setting basically makes sense. Basically the scene was set up. Basically it was a religious killing. It was a just killing. The cathedral was very definite thing by the vagabonds to invoke those thoughts.
Symbolism.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this needs to be a serial killer crime novel now.
So you don't.
Somebody needs to write this mystery.
Basically, so are you? Basically, that's interesting. Are you saying the fact that they don't even make it to trial, that someone kills the vagabond?
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that the vagabond might, in fact, be a serial killer.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, they're a wanderer. They go from place to place. Maybe this has happened before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Tag yourself if you watch too much true crime. Oh, wait, it's me. You might hear my fiance laughing in the background.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that's Spindlewheel.
Awesome.
That is how detective runs.
That's fun.
That's great. That's a great, basically just a short little, basically, I say short little, it took us about 45 minutes or so. We have explanations and rules and things like that. And we generated a very nice, interesting, basically, story off of it. That's great. And I love that. Basically,
I seriously think this could be like an outline for a novel. This was fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, so the micro games collection, which Detective is part of, has 3 other games in it, and a series of generating spreads. So all of these games are use Spindlewheel cards as their medium, and it's a lot of drawing these spreads and interpreting them, and then manipulating the cards to tell the kind of story that you want to tell. One of the other games in it is called Meet Me in the Field of Honor at Dawn, in which it's a 2-player game in which you were close once, but those days are behind you, and it's time to settle your grudges for good. So it's a dueling game at the end of a long relationship that has come to its height, and must resolve in one direction or another. Um, and in that, you draw a spread much like this one, where you sort of determine who you are and who you are to the other person, and then you use these same cards to attack each other. So you would take um, you would take a card like Fortune, for instance, and use it to seat your action against the other player. So, like saying like Rotten Luck, um, you you just happen to look in the wrong direction at the wrong time, and it gives me an opening to strike you. That kind of action. Um, and you also have games that are less moment to moment and more sort of mythical in their posing, like the Mountain, in which one player plays the god locked in the peak of a mountain, and the other players play its followers scaling the mountain to free the god.
Mm.
And it's very much approaching this mythical like parable um, of this god and who they are, and all of these trials that stand between that god and their freedom that the followers have to overcome.
That's great. Oh, this guy, I really like the fact basically the interpretive nature basically of these things, basically the snippets of poetry on basically you generated all of the poetry on all of these, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, basically, they're very evocative. I love the fact that they're basically they're like sometimes you're like, oh yeah, basically it's obvious because you look at it because we've been talking about a certain thing like Fortune. You're like, oh, obviously Fortune means that here, but like even some of the other stuff, which is just like Princess became CEO, and basically, and some of them were
Mhm.
basically it's the fact that you put together this collection of interesting, different uses for them, basically where all these things can be greatly and interestingly evocative. Basically, there's a total of how
Yeah.
many different games?
Um, so Spindlewheel Microgames contains 4 games total, and
Mm.
a collection of world building generating spreads.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that.
Yeah, that was the other part I was going to basically want to touch on. Basically, obviously we're Lore Link. We're here basically talking basically GM toolkits and things like that. And one of the most interesting things I always love seeing and basically talking about is these generation engines because they're great for just basically you've got a little bit of an idea in your head and you need to unlock it. And sometimes it just takes something like this where it just has little bits of basically pieces of things that your brain will just pull out. Basically, like you said, it's tarot is self-reflective and things like that. So you're pulling stuff out of it that's going to reflect what you're thinking of, and they'll help you build the world that you're already thinking of. So the world building spread, if you want to talk about that, basically that's a great way of basically like, oh, I'm stuck on this idea, this plot, I want to create something, but it's too hard, it's too complicated. How do you get past blank page syndrome?
Absolutely. So one of the spreads in the microgames is called Mapmaking, which is played uh, basically through a series of card spreads. And the way that I experience it is kind of like um, when you're in a video game, but you have like like you've hacked into it and you
Mm.
put no clip on and you kind of like fly through the map through the walls and find like all the secrets and nooks and crannies that the developers didn't anticipate you would find. It feels very much like that, uh where you explore the spaces as you find them. um the first spread for map making is a landscape, where instead of laying out the entire map of a continent, we're just going to lay out the local terrain. So what is north and south and east and west of you, and you can move in that direction and discover and sort of lay out the spread again to find out what is west of you, and in that way sort of explore the terrain in kind of an abstract way, but you can also start to drill down into specifics. For instance, using if you see a city on the horizon, you can drill into that city's reputation, a prominent landmark, their export, and then you can drill in a little bit further, looking at the city's districts, what each of those, how the spaces are primarily used, what they're close to, the distribution of wealth and power, and by using these cards to sort of color in that structure, you can come up with stuff that and sort of signal in your brain like connotations and connections that you wouldn't have made otherwise.
I love that. How many players is Spindlewheel aimed toward?
Spindlewheel is really good for tables between. You can play it solo, which is actually a way that a lot of the games were initially developed is solo. But you can play up to a 4 or 5 player table. I've actually played detective with a table of like 14 people, which is a wild experience.
Wow. Yeah, I bet.
But a lot of the other games are a lot more contained, a lot more focused, and really benefit from a smaller table of like 5 people at most.
I was thinking it would be a great way to generate worlds. Like, I mean, that thing I said earlier about this could be a novel. Like, you could generate a whole series of ideas if you were a creative looking for inspiration, but you're like, I don't know what to pick for my next thing. Let's throw some cards on the table and see what I come up with.
Yeah, exactly. Another use of the deck that I am a big fan of is actually it's a weird kind of conflict resolution. Spindlewheel is not a deck that is good at telling you whether something succeeds or fails, but it's really good at telling you how it succeeds or fails. Like,
I can see that.
it's a very colorful deck. It's really good at lending color to any given action. And it is one of its strengths when I play it in another game is like for instance, if you have an NPC who shows up and you don't know anything about them, a really easy way to build someone on the fly is to do a core and crossing spread, which is the core is who they are, and the crossing is what complicates them. So I'm actually going to pull a couple of cards to do that here. So immediately we have Heavy Crown, a sword bent into a crown, a brow cut by the weight, a miracle forged in blood spilled, crossed by Tin Penny, a sacred tenet ridiculed, a grim bond forged without kindness or warmth, or a small and clearly counterfeit coin, a foolish fondness cheaply gained.
Yeah, I can take that. There's a number of characters that could come off of those two ideas. But go ahead, Misty, explain.
Absolutely. To me, at least, it it describes someone who is completely out of their strong element. Someone who, like a wizard who's been transported into a spaceship or something like that. Like someone with
Ah,
incredible ability who is like recontextualize it in a way where that ability is a sacred tenet ridiculed, or a small and clearly counterfeit coin. Um, and
Yeah.
uh, the way that each of these archetypes juxtaposes with each other is I have found to be a really rich vein to mine for ideas.
mhm, mhm.
How cool.
Yeah, it would be great to see basically talking about basically either basically using basically having these available basically when you're doing your session zero, basically for your next campaign, basically, and
Mhm.
you're just sitting down and you're like doing the world building, like let's build this. Basically, one system I really enjoyed. The Dresden Files is one of them, and there's a couple others that do it as
Mhm.
well, where the beginning of it is a collaborative world building where people take turns basically naming parts of the city, naming parts of the geography, things like that, which pulls your players into the game because they're much more invested in something they've helped create it. Basically, that in they name that feature that they were responsible for is much more interesting and important to them as opposed to random thing on a map. Kids on Bike is the other one that uses a similar system. That's what it was. Um,
Mhm.
but I could totally see you basically this gives you a much more basically a lot of those times it's hard to convince players to be like, yes, we're going to create this together, and you immediately get deer in the headlights from your players because they're like, well, I have no ideas, I can't think of anything, um,
Mhm.
and they're like, well, no, don't worry, we'll have some suggestions for you that will give you ideas, basically things like that, and we'll just pull them together, and this feels like a great way of using all those to build characters, to build a world, basically. And so, basically, in addition to being basically a fun and great way of being like, hey, let's tell a quick ghost story. Basically, pull this out during a Halloween party or something like that. I think one of your
Mhm.
other ones is even better for that. The ghost on the train one, I think it is.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Ghost Train. A uh it's a lovely little game about discovering who you were by talking to other ghosts on a train riding through the afterlife.
Huh.
yeah, I love that one as being
I
it's
love
a,
how the
mhm,
creative all this is.
mhm. So
Yeah.
I guess a quick question for you, basically. So, basically, when you sat
Mhm.
down to basically, because I love asking these, basically asking designers, basically picking their brain a little bit, if you don't mind a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
so, what was the development process for like? Because you talked about this being solo and things like that. Did it
Mhm.
start off as you designed the tarot first, and then you went from there? Did you start off with, I want to create a basically an interpretive game, and then you're like, oh, tarot is the perfect way to do that as opposed to dice or something like that? Basically, what was the process for this?
Well, it actually started as a video game. Um,
Oh, okay.
it has transformed completely over the course of development. I wanted to make a game in which you interacted with characters and built a history with them over the course of lifetimes.
Mm.
And a friend of mine, who is a game developer, suggested that that would be easier for people to generate than a computer to generate. Um, and so I actually tried like a, I had a stat system, I had like magical objects, I had pluses and minuses and dice and the whole thing, because that's what I thought a TTRPG was supposed to be.
Mhm.
Um, and I tested that for a while, and there's actually like a couple of like Heavy Crown and Tin Penny were both like magical objects that sort of transformed into archetypes for the deck later on. Um, so they're like little vestigial limbs of that history. Um, and at the time, I was using a deck of cards that I had made as an art project, and
Hmm.
the characters on I was using them as stand-ins for the NPCs that I was playing, um, and like sort of tracking over this whole map and this complicated nonsense. And I was really delighted by how much characterization I was able to pull out of those cards just by them being characters, just by them being the archetypes that they were. And I thought, okay, well, if I can get that much from an art card, how much can I get out of a tarot card? And once I found some really friendly, like beginner friendly decks, I started messing around with cards like that, and really fell in love with how generative and colorful and cool a tarot card can be for telling a story. And the rest sort of cascaded from there.
Huh.
So how long were you into tarot before you went there for the game?
I actually wasn't into tarot at all before this.
Okay, so this you thought maybe a tarot card would work for my game, but you hadn't had any experience with tarot before that.
No, basically at all.
Oh.
I grew up very Christian
Ah,
and had a kind of phobia of anything that was like even kind of occulty.
yeah,
Um, and so I actually came to tarot like completely as a game object.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh, I have been surprised as we have done our indie creator series how many people are out there creating tabletop RPGs with tarot as the vehicle.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting to me. Um, my fiance has been reading tarot for over 25 years, so I have one perspective on tarot
Hmm.
uh, from her, and then to encounter other people who are like, oh yeah, tarot, that's a great way to play a game because tarot started as a game.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to me. I was just wondering what your experience was.
Absolutely. I have a I have an interest in tarot in games, obviously. Um, but I also have an interest in how it is historically and how people are using it these days. I actually have a couple of YouTube videos that I've made called Playing the Tarot, um, that that I have made, sort of exploring tarot historically and exploring how tarot can be used in tabletop games, what a card is good at and bad at and all of that, and I go pretty in depth on it. It's a special interest for me, absolutely. So
That's awesome.
That's
It's
awesome.
that's definitely one of the things I've basically as we've done this series, we've done more with people doing using tarot as basically as part of TTRPG. It's been great to be like, okay, basically, yeah, they're an interesting way of adding randomization to a system, but still allowing player input, as it were. So basically, where
mhm,
it's not just basically, oh, you rolled a one, you fail, you rolled a 10, you succeed. It's okay, here's your result. What does that mean? Oh, okay. Well, basically,
oh dear.
I didn't get the direction I necessarily wanted out of it, but I got something. And so, what basically, where does that go to? And pushing people to be like, hey, be creative as opposed to just, I hit the enemy. Like you're talking about with your basically, the duel, where it's like, be more creative than just, oh, I hit you, you hit me back, etc.,
Mhm.
etc. Nope, we disconnected from the server. Oh no.
Should I make a new room?
I think we're basically. I think we're good.
Okay.
basically,
Just making sure.
yep, I just basically, um, but basically, so yeah, it's a great way of basically doing, basically of adding that. And it's really been fascinating and great to see all these cool systems using it.
Yeah. Another feature of tarot games and Spindlewheel that I've noticed that I love is the more that you play with a deck, the more meaning and history you build with the cards.
Mm.
Um, uh, 20, I'm sure your fiance has like opinions and relationships with particular cards, having read for as long as she has.
Yes. And different relationships with different decks.
Hmm.
So yeah, what you're saying, I'm over here nodding like I've heard this before.
Hmm. And the lovely thing about like developing a relationship and a sort of patina of meaning on each card is that when it comes up in play, it carries with it all of that meaning and all of that history, and it recontextualizes whatever you drew it for in a really marvelous way. It's a thing that I really love seeing, especially with different people, because they'll have developed a really particular relationship to a card or a concept, and when they play together, those concepts uh, clash and meld and create something special and new that is unique to that table, in a way that like you can have a relationship to a die, right? You can have one that's particularly lucky or unlucky, but uh with a card it is so there is such a depth to it. It's just one of my favorite things.
How
That's
long did,
fun. I
yeah,
love that.
basically, speaking of decks and things like that, how long did it take you to create the deck you use in Spindle Wheel?
um it took, I want to say, 3 years. It took to write it didn't take that long, but to hone it and play test it and illustrate it
Mm.
took a great deal of time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Playtesting a tarot deck is not something I was going to think of.
Right?
It basically, it makes sense. It makes sense when you said it. I'm like, oh yeah, you'd want certain things, but you're like, oh, I'm not really getting this. I'm not evoking this or seeing this show up, and so I need
Hmm.
to change basically things like that. It's a really interesting idea that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, you learn all sorts of things about what makes a card evocative and what kind of language and what kind of imagery really speaks to people, and you also find uh, ways in which like you repeat yourself, or you can certainly see in the spindle wheel deck the things that like make me light up creatively. um like there are these motifs and these concepts that I return to, that I get a lot out of, that I have done my best to pose as beautifully and evocatively to other people so that they can also get as much as out of them as I do.
Mhm. One thing I will note, basically, something I was thinking of while we were doing this, is we kind of bent towards a modern take, basically in terms of like CEOs and things like that. But it would basically very easily could have basically been a completely fantasy or medieval or other time period, or basically even science fiction or something like that if we had wanted to, because basically the cards are evocative enough that they leave that open for you, that you're like, what do you want to bring with this? So this guy was really interested to see that. Like, oh yeah, basically we did the princess. I'm like, well, maybe they actually are a prince or a princess. That there was actually a, basically maybe we're shift the entire thing with just a simple suggestion. I really like the way that
Yeah,
that keeps it open.
absolutely. The thing that the deck absolutely has a say in is tone, right? Um, we have um, we have the tone of the game that we're playing, right? It's a detective story. It's gonna have somebody's dead in it, right? That sets the tone in a particular way. Um, but the there is actually a balance in the deck that I made very intentionally, of positive versus negative connotations. And this deck is kind of an edgelord, if I'm honest.
That's awesome.
And it is not the only deck that I've written. There are a number of others. I wrote one with a person very dear to me who was very interested in romance tropes and things like that. And that deck is a lot lighter and uh, a lot more positive and a lot more yearning and bubbly, and it's so funny. You can see the difference between our two aesthetics in it. Uh, there's like one of the cards is heartbreak, and you can tell which side of it I wrote, because it's uh, uh, like cardiac confetti for your pity party, is what's written on it.
I love that. Oh,
And their writing is much kinder and much more hopeful, and I love that. I love playing with that deck. It's such a different experience.
have fun.
That's great. As soon as you said this deck, I'm like, oh wait, basically, are there other decks? And I guess that's basically, are other decks basically in the works? Are you planning on basically? I hate to say the word DLC or expansions, but basically additional content. That's a much nicer way of saying it. Basically, for Spindlewheel, where basically there will be other decks and other things that you'll add to it. Basically, in the future.
Absolutely. I have a number of them in the works. Personally, I've also commissioned expansion decks from other artists and designers that I am completely in love with.
Wow.
That was part of I did a Kickstarter back in 2020 or 21, sometime around there.
It was a wonder.
Yeah. And for that, I was very fortunate to get a number of expansion decks commissioned by some artists and designers that I really admire. And other designers have tackled the idea of what a spindle wheel game could be. Many others have, in fact. There's a little section on my itch page that is just games by other designers who have that are designed for use with a spindle wheel deck. It's something I'm very grateful and very proud of, that
cool.
other people were inspired and found it fruitful to make a game with this.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll ask one last question before we probably reach the end of our time here and wrap it up. Basically, but I'll ask the question. Basically, something popped to my head. So, why Spindlewheel? What's the history behind the name?
For sure. So naming things is not my strong suit. It went through a number of other names before this. The first of which was a mouthful. I called it Purgatoriophage, because it took place in purgatory. And for a while, it was like there were so many other names that I was tossing around, and The problem with the great thing about Purgatorio page is its SEO is perfect. There's nothing else named that.
Right?
The problem with it is that no one is going to remember it, or how to spell it, for instance. And I actually ran a poll on social media, as to which of these like four names I came up with I should go with, because I couldn't decide. And I believe Spindlewheel won by 1 vote.
Oh, wow. Over what?
I don't remember the others.
That's fair. I was just wondering if you remembered what came in second.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Oh, it was neck and neck. It was extremely infuriating for me. I was like, please pick something.
Please don't leave this as a tie.
Don't you dare die. Don't you dare die. It's the worst feeling.
But yeah, I like Spindlewheel as it invokes a number of things that I really enjoy. One of which is like there's a fairy tale element to it. There's also an element of fiber art that I like a lot. Approaching a game, a story, as not something that you're chiseling in stone, but something that you're knitting together, that you're spinning out of fiber or out of thin air, and weaving together, that it is a living document that you can drop stitches, right? You can undo things. You can pick out stitches and start again. Is a really important element to playing this game with other people, to me. Being able to revisit things and revise and create as you go. I'm a big fan of that, and it works really well with Spindlewheel.
Yeah. When you said that, basically it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Okay. So basically, where can people, obviously we've got the website up, in terms of what are you going to be doing with Spindlewheel in the future? What's your, your future plans? Essentially, what if people are interested in Spindlewheel, what should they do, and what can they look forward to? And where
Absolutely.
can they find you?
So you can find everything about Spindlewheel at tcabbage.com/spindlewheel. That will link you to a place to get the physical deck. It will also link you to all of the games that I and others have made with it, other decks and things like that. In the future, the thing that I'm working on currently is a game called Spindlewheel Forever, which is a campaign version of Spindlewheel, in which you play these archetypes that have special ways of telling stories. And you sit these archetypes down together at the same table and weave together this world and story over the course of a number of sessions, the kind of game that you play over the course of a year. And your characters change and the world changes, and over the course of play, you actually build up new cards out of your experiences and play those as you go. So there's a mechanic for writing and creating Spindlewheel cards that are bespoke to your campaign. That I'm very excited about. So you can find that on my my itch page, which is linked on the T Cabbage, but I can say it here. It is 22to22.itch.io. You can find Spindlewheel Forever there.
Awesome. Okay. So basically, thank you so much for bringing this and running us through this game. It's been a great time. It's a great creative time. Even with the short little game we played, we developed a really cool, interesting story, and there's a lot of awesome and neat potential here. So basically, even if you're looking for just a game to pick up and basically play with a group at a bar or a party or something like that, it seems great. And if you're a GM struggling with blank page syndrome and you can't get past that first hurdle, this seems like a great way of breaking that ice, getting something down there, and basically finding that game. You've already written it. You just need someone to point it out what your ideas were. And these games are great for pulling these things out of you. So highly recommend that. Basically, and
For
of course, basically to segue into my final pitch here. Basically for LoreLink, basically obviously we are basically LoreLink. We are basically a software which is designed to help you write down those ideas once you get them, basically organize them and store them in really interesting, basically interesting in really ways that make sense, the ways that work for you to be able to organize your thoughts so you're not shuffling through notepads, sticky notes, basically, and all those other things that you may have had basically those moments of inspiration that you've pulled from basically from games like this and from planning tools like this. Get them all organized, get them all into one place. Basically, and you can check that out on our website. You can check that link out in the chat, or if you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description, as well as links for how to basically find Spindlewheel. Basically, all of those will be in the links to the description of this video on YouTube as well. They're also in the chat here in Twitch. Obviously, because basically, if you're watching here on Twitch, basically, we always say, basically, if you want to throw us a follow, that's always greatly appreciated. It's free. Basically, if you want to subscribe because you think we're doing a really awesome job, that's also always appreciated, but never necessary. Basically, if you do have basically Twitch Prime, basically Amazon Gaming Prime. Eventually, someday I'm going to learn the name of it, but then they'll change it. So why bother? What basically
They keep changing it.
Yeah, basically Amazon Prime Twitch Gaming thing sub gets you a free subscription. And you basically, if you have it, you don't want to use it, you can always throw it our way. It's always appreciated, and we can guarantee, unlike Jeff Bezos, that we won't spend that money on a yacht. So hey, maybe an in-game yacht, as the quote goes. But basically, so if you're watching this over on YouTube, basically liking the video, subscribing to the channel, because we have to have different names for things on different platforms. Basically, leaving a comment, all those things enhance the algorithm. We always appreciate that as well. And basically, if you want to keep track of what we're doing and other cool creators we're talking to, basically, you can check out our Blue Sky account. Basically, that will basically give you updates on that. Or if you're like, I avoid social media because social media is terrifying and a nightmare place sometimes, understandable. We have a newsletter. It comes directly to your inbox, basically, so you don't have to venture out into the world of social media. As our social media, as a communication director is basically promptly said, social media is trash. Valid point. So basically, with all that, basically the world's on fire. Play more games, have fun. Basically have fun with your friends. Use generations and things like that, whether in public or in private. As we started this conversation talking about, sometimes it's good to have a medium that lets you let all of this stuff out. Basically, that you've been storing up, and you may not necessarily know it's there. And games like this are great ways of getting those out. So yet again, thank you, Sasha, for being with us here. Thank you for bringing Spindlewheel, basically showing that off to us. Greatly appreciated. And basically, thank you all for watching and listening, or however you are in basically consuming this content. Thank you, and we will catch you all later. Bye.